I'm going to tell you a story about a hot summer night. The rats and the roaches crawling out and drove straight out of the sewage pipes. The sanitation may have been on strike. It was the night when someone called Jake Curtis, Ian, and Blue the intern dog. That's right, welcome to Jubilee Street. If you're hearing this message, you are in violation of jaywalking. This is a music podcast. I'm Ian McCurtis, he's Jake Curtis, and today we're talking about the Dark Horse sleeper pick from our 100th episode Nick Cave draft. We are talking about an album called Door Girl by Shilpa Ray.
The fire department, EMT, police, the fire department.
Ian, what is the... Let's start off with some information here for listeners who might not be familiar with Shilpa and her work. What's the connection with the Bad Seeds?
Okay, so Shilpa Ray is a musician, obviously. So she played in Nick Cave's band on a tour in 2013, and then I think she's opened for him since then. Nick Cave has called her like his favorite current musician, signed her to his label for an EP at least. She did a song, I think it's a cover called Pirate Jenny with Nick Cave and Warren Ellis. You know, they have a lot of connections to each other. So we had a category in the Nick Cave draft where we had to choose an album by a Bad Seeds member. I kind of stretched the rules there, and I was like, well, she was a Bad Seeds member for a tour and chose this album. And you had never even heard of her, so I figured, what the hell, let's maybe some people listening to this podcast would be interested in her music because of all those ties. So let's give her some love and talk about this album.
Well, I put this on one lowly night. It was a cool San Diego night, and I had to drive to the old Trader Joe's to pick up some groceries, and I had no idea what to expect. You know, I hadn't yet listened to the record and kind of had a feeling you would want to talk about it in depth because, like you said, it was kind of our black sheep choice from the draft. I think it was the most unknown, unexpected choice, and I'm really glad that I got to listen to that record and subsequently find an artist who I find really interesting. And quite honestly, I'm surprised that I didn't know about her before because this record is not perfect, but it's one of the coolest things I've heard, and it sounds kind of timeless. Like, it sounds like it was recorded in a different time, and I think that's a good thing.
I hope this gets some people to check her out because I didn't really know of her either, and you know, she's been around for like 15 years through... She had a band called Beat the Devil, and then Shilpa Ray and her Happy Hookers, and now just solo Shilpa Ray. But I told the story on the 100th episode, but I'll tell it again real quick. She was playing at a local venue here in town, and I just saw the flyer or something. It said that she was associated with Nick Cave, so I just went on a whim and checked her out. And I was like, how... It was one of the best live shows I've ever seen. Definitely the best live show I've seen in a small venue. Like, I remember when she did Morning Terrors and Nights of Dread, there was like backup singers and people were playing maracas, and it was like so professional, and me and Courtney looked at each other and were like, what the fuck is this? And I don't know how she's not like worldwide famous.
Have you seen the video for that song?
Yeah.
Her music videos are incredible. That song in particular is like really, really good. It's very like a particular specific vision and mood that's being set by this person. It's really, really, really good, dude, to quote Cody Ray.
Dude. She has a just talking about not being maybe as famous as she should be. There's a quote on her Bandcamp that I thought was pretty fitting. It says, nobody grows up wanting to be an artist. Appreciated by the subsect of the subsect is like being the beauty queen at the leper colony.
I'm trying to find that quote.
So, she's like, when you talk about a comedian, they're like, it's a comedian's comedian. She's a musician's musician.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's really accurate, because that's kind of how I left feeling about her, like, and I really think that there's a tongue-in-cheek quality to the way she presents her music and herself that is really endearing. But yeah, this is music that I think appeals to people who make music. But it's also like I think she'll blow up. I'm surprised she still relatively seems like an underground artist.
Well, I don't know if at this point if she wants to. I think.
Yeah.
I would guess she's probably in her early 40s. And, maybe at this point she's happy kind of being where she is like underground gym. Well, let's try to describe the music a little bit. We haven't even touched on that yet. So how would you describe this album? I would say like
I don't know how to. It feels completely new, and also, like I said earlier, like it feels like it came from a different time.
I would say like the Stooges by way of the Beach Boys or something. It's like very old school punk. The album cover is kind of like a play on the New York Dolls, but it also has this Beach Boys, this doo-wop, this like jazziness. It is timeless. It's got just a lot of like old influences going on, but also this like noise rock thing. It's really cool.
So, because the Ronettes are kind of like just one of those like effervescent kind of like everywhere artists, like everybody's heard a Ronette song. For me, Shilpa Ray is like the Ronettes by way of Ceremony. Like if Ceremony wanted to make like a Ronettes album, this is what it would sound like. Does that work?
Oh, for sure. Like I definitely hear the Ronettes.
But instead of like all of like the more like doo-wop, like whatever of it all that they did, it's like if Debbie Harry were in the Ronettes.
And she just has this voice. Like I feel like she gets compared to Ella Fitzgerald a lot, and it's that thing where she can just like wail, like.
Oh my God, like, it's amazing.
I don't know how to describe it other than wailing. Just like fucking loud, but still hitting notes. It's just like a crazy voice.
I feel like it would be doing her a discredit to compare her to Hole, but like a couple of the songs on this record reminded me of Hole.
Yeah, I think the thing, if you've never heard this before and you're listening to us talk about it, we're like throwing out so many references. This is just one of those albums where like you could hear a million different things in it if you wanted to.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that she's definitely a Nick Cave fan because, I mean, her whole shtick is just straight out of 80s new or no wave, like, and post-punk. Like, the Happy Hookers is like, that could have been a Nick Cave side project, like that whole kind of like transgressive, subversive, like, spit in your face kind of attitude. Like even this new stuff after she left the Happy Hookers behind, like it's got a very like kick sand in your face and spit in your eye kind of feeling, and it's really good. It's just good. It's really good. I
think I haven't spent a ton of time in New York City, but this album just feels like New York City, and you think of that, like you said, the no wave scene, and it does feel like, especially Lydia Lunch, it feels like that. Like I'm gonna write pop songs, but bring in these elements of noisy music at my discretion and kind of play with it.
It's really, really well recorded. Like there is a plethora of sounds to hear that you would not hear just like listening to it in the car. Like there's a lot of mixing choices where they'll like mix in like these, you know, screeches and feedback underneath like a guitar and her voice. And I think the song that kind of clicked for me was, well, I guess there's two of them that are my favorite, but the one where the album kind of caught my attention was Revelations of a Stamp Monkey, which is kind of like a hip hop song. And then
It's got the rap verse, yeah.
And then it's got a
By,
rap verse at the end.
Skirt Vonnegut.
Skirt Vonnegut, that's their name?
That's the woman rapping, that's her name, yeah.
That's awesome. Where I was like, oh, this is like a special record. Like that's how it made me feel listening to it. And, you know, I only listened to it one time through, and I feel like that was purposeful because I wanted to come into it as a newbie and like kind of like still be partially remembering things. And so today, in more preparation for the episode, I put on their audio tree, which I would definitely recommend for anybody to check out. She did an audio tree back in like 2018. And that session's incredible. And then I watched all her music videos. And then I'm actually really excited to go back and listen to the record that came out before this one. It's got like a baboon on the cover. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can't remember what that one's called, but yeah.
I got it right here.
So as you go backwards in her discography, it'll kind of get noisier and noisier.
Mm-hmm. Last Year's Savage. Yeah, see, I heard Burning Bride from this, and I was like, oh, shit, this is even better than that record. So I think it just kind of appeals more to my weirdo sensibilities, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, there's just, it's really, really fascinating. There's just so much stuff in here that makes me think of Nick Cave, like Heteronormative, Horseshit Blues, Manic Pixie Dream Cunt. Like, these are just great. She's just a good writer, you know?
She's definitely mastered, so those are singles, not on this album, but she's mastered, like, the art of the song title. Her song titles are all amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even these new tracks that maybe we can do another episode on in the future, Bootlickers of the Patriarchy, like, you know, there's some really, really, this is a really creative person. And she's got a lot of listens on Spotify. Like, she's got some songs here that have they have over 1 million listens, so that's huge.
So the
not that
album's
Spotify matters, but, you know.
The album's called Door Girl, and I think it's kind of loosely a concept album of someone, you know, working door at like a nightclub or a music venue and kind of seeing, you know, that's what makes it feels like New York, seeing all these different things go by and you're just watching. You're the door girl.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a couple of these songs specifically. So Revelations of a Stamp Monkey, I think is lyrically one of the best songs. And I think that I think a lot of her music is kind of an indictment on capitalism and her feeling on how it makes people less human. So there's this great part in that song where it's like Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, all I feel is impending disaster.
Yeah.
And then the end of the song is, you want to know where my heart went? It went straight to making the rent. And it's like you're so wrapped up in making ends meet, you can't like care about the world around you, you know? And that's sort of a through line throughout a lot of her music. And I think she is such a strong writer that it comes through in like really interesting ways.
Yeah, that earworm of a lyric, a pop collar, pop collar, pop collar, pop collar, muffin top. Like, what's going on there?
I don't know, but it's catchy.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up that. I heard that at first, and I wasn't really. I was like, oh well, you're pretty much explicitly making a statement at this point because with where Black Lives Matter was, and it was also the song's different. It hits different now than it did. It's because in 2020 everything was at a fever pitch. And so I feel like listening to it now sort of like post that big, huge wave of internet activism and, you know, people sort of like, I think because everybody was at home and had time to care more about how racism
And this came
was
out in
impacting the
2017,
police.
so it was well
So that's
before
what what I'm wondering is like, this is a message that's not necessarily ahead of its time, but as far as like a huge cultural moment, it had yet to happen. This album also came out during Donald Trump's era, which I think, you can't really talk about America without mentioning like how he impacted people here and how every fucking thing changed after he was president and during his presidency. And while I think Obama had a similar influence on things, it was never the same,
I also really like later in the song, she says two cops get shot down the street, one Hispanic, the other Chinese. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna read into her lyrics, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but if you follow her, I feel like she's not afraid to go against like popular leftist thinking.
Mm-hmm.
She's not afraid to do her own thing. And I feel like maybe there she's saying like maybe the problem isn't police, like maybe the problem is deeper than that, and it's our whole society. Or it's something deeper than just hating cops.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's like a whole other episode to talk about that because
she's like, two cops get shot, they're people of color too. Like, I don't know. I feel like she's saying the problem is society itself. The problem is like capitalism. It's everything.
Yeah. Well, it's like racism penetrates everything. Like the police came out of a racist ideology, and yet we live because we live in this society that came from racism. You can't. It's inescapable. So it's like people who join the police that are not white are still victims of racism, even while they're seemingly like trying to do the right thing. Like they're trying to be part of like justice and that kind of thing. So yeah, no, there's some really smart stuff in here. And then the Skirt Vonnegut feature is really good, and it's fun. I mean, it's a fun song. I thought it was a nice break after Night Terror, or what is it?
Morning Terrors, Nights of Dread.
Morning Terrors, Nights of Dread. Yeah, the Night Terrors switch up always gets me.
Which has just like these great backup vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Just that song in particular really makes me think Beach Boys.
Beach Boys is a really interesting comparison. I don't know if I would have thought of that.
But yeah, I think if you were to listen to this album, I think the strongest thing that's going to jump out is just how unique of a lyric writer she is, and how just like smart she is. She's just smart, insightful.
Ian, can I tell you my favorite song on the album?
Yeah.
It's EMT Police, the Fire Department.
Oh yeah. So when I saw her do this song live, I thought the world was gonna like end. It was fucking violent and crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome, and that's why I brought up Ceremony earlier. Like, it reminded me of Sick of Living in America.
Oh,
What's that song called? It has that same
Sick.
energy. Yeah, Sick. And I don't know, that's why I recommended the audio tree, because she plays this on the audio tree, and it's awesome. And then it just like stops, and then the audio tree like attendant or interviewer is like, wow. Like, she's just like speechless for a second. It's really cool.
This song lyrically is just like, so this song's very much about her working door at like, a nightclub where she hates the people that are like going to this nightclub. And she's just putting like New York City culture on blast, just like shitting on everyone. It's so angry. So just like charged with vitriol towards these like yuppie people. It's great.
When you yuppies become drunk-ass punks, post-hedge funds, post-surgeries. That time you said I'd better lawyer up, vomiting while you threatened to sue me. All hail the golden calf when Les puts the blame on the state of New Jersey. And then I'm charging $8 to go to hell. It's straight up the stairs. I'm charging $8 to go to hell. Racist Barbies wasted, sipping from straws. Ken slipping 50s. He got privileged, son, to melt like wax and debauchery. I mean, there's just some really cool stuff in here, like the fakeness of people that, and I don't know. It just reminds me of. It always reminds me of those videos you see of white people, like white women, who are like, I'm going to call the police. I'm calling the police. You're harassing me, and how like these people can like throw these like legitimate threats around as if they're not a big deal to the other person. Like for them, it's just like that simple to be like, oh, you're not gonna serve me anymore. Well, I'll shut down your whole bar, and it's just like, get the fuck over yourself, you fucking idiot. Like this isn't for you.
Yeah, that's I think a big idea here is, she's like, I might just be the girl you pay to get into this club, but I'm seeing all the dumb shit you're doing, and I'm like remembering it.
Yeah, and these are not the best minds of our generation, destroyed by madness, hysterical, naked. These are not the best minds. Like that line is really simple. I think that's probably one of the more like simple poetic lines, but it hits really hard because, it really
and the
sucks.
chorus is just her doing like a siren noise with her voice, like wow, 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 wow. It's so cool.
It's really cool. Yeah, this is a cool record. There's, I feel like, shit. I'm trying to scroll back in these lyrics. I feel like there's like a whole lot to dissect, like song by song. So what I want to ask you is, what's your favorite song on the record?
It is probably, I mean, honestly, it's EMT, police, and the fire department. But just so we have another one to talk about, I will say I also really love, this one like grew on me, as time went on. Shilpa Ray's Got a Heart Full of Dirt, which is a great song title. And I think the song's about like all these times she's escaped in her life of like, bad shit happening to her, or drugs, whatever it might be. No matter what, she's still going to get old. So the chorus is like, point of no return, who in the right mind will walk around backwards. Like no matter what, age is going to take me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of songs out there about like growing old. But I think this is does it in a really fresh way, which is something I keep saying, but every song is just a unique perspective on a song you've heard before.
Yeah. I just think this is such a unique and well curated vision of like what punk rock should be at this time, and it just made me think of other bands like this at like around 2017, like Priest came to mind, and what's the Mannequin Pussy, like these like very, very like emotive, often beautiful like moments that these bands would create together. And that's how I felt listening to this Shilpa Ray record, is I was just continually like floored by what she was able to do with her voice. And again, I've said it like 3 times now, but the Audio Tree session, like getting to see her perform is like so cool. Like I don't know, it feels, I may try to go see her when she comes to San Diego now, because I just feel like that show will be fucking wild after quarantine. I feel like her band will probably just go ape shit and, set the bar on fire. And I think for me, it's like it's cool listening to this, because it's kind of like we get like the Birthday Party if they were more refined, like if they were better.
Great comparison.
And better in every
just said that
single
at the
way.
beginning.
Yeah, and I mean, this podcast started as a Nick Cave podcast, and it's continuing as like a music podcast generally, that with a strong emphasis on Nick Cave. So it's hard to escape like not comparing everything we talk about to things that Nick does. But I think I've said this on episodes before, maybe not in so many words, but I think I had a lot of like weird like shame around being a Nick Cave, like doing a Nick Cave podcast, because when I would bring it up to some of my friends, they were like, why Nick Cave? Like, do you even like Nick Cave? And so I always kind of felt like I had to defend it, even though, because it was such a new thing to add into my life at the time we started the podcast. But like, I really like genuinely love Nick Cave's music, and I still kind of feel like he has this like outsider quality to him that I think is just like made up in my head, but like to an even more extreme extent, I feel like Shilpa Ray kind of like goes harder and like in some ways is a better writer than Nick. And like I felt like listening to this album, this was like something that everybody should be proud to know about. Like if people, like the more people know about Shilpa Ray, the better it will be. Like I think that she is like one of our greatest living creative people. Like she's just putting out really unique stuff. She's taking old ideas and putting this really interesting spin on them. In the Audio Tree interview, she mentions that she's not really playing a character, but I think that it's pretty clear that she's like created this version of herself that's like a door girl at a venue, like you said. And yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a long tangent, so I apologize to the listeners, but yeah, sorry.
She's doing what they say like great wrestling characters are just yourself turned up to 11. I think that's what she's doing. She's just kind of turning the volume knob up on her personality. I want to go off of what you said a few minutes ago about this being what punk rock should be now. I hadn't thought of it in those terms, but you're absolutely right because, I mean, you know me, Jake. I care about, like, I devote so much of my mind's energy to punk rock and like what it means to me. You know,
Sure.
It's such an important thing to me. And
You're the eternal cowboy.
sometimes I'll see. You know, this happens very rarely, once every couple of years. It happened 6 months ago when I saw 100 Gex. I'll see a band, and I'm just like, oh, this is like, this is punk rock to me. This is like a new, I haven't seen this before. You know, I'll like tear up. It's like so important to me. I'm like, oh, they're doing it right. Like, they're doing something new. They're pushing things forward. And that's how I felt when I saw Shilpa Ray. I was just like, this... You know, I love the Lawrence Arms. I love Rancid. I love all the bands that sound like that, but I've heard them a million times. This is taking that violence and that aggression and doing something I've never heard before, and that's special.
There's, I think a lot of artists talk about, like, you know, the sort of doldrums of life in really good ways, and one of those artists I think of a lot is Modest Mouse. Like I feel like a lot of those early Modest Mouse records is sort of like the malaise of like having to have a job and the sort of like, you know, new idea that gained more traction with the millennial generation and now with like the younger generation, like the Zoomers or whatever, where like it's kind of absurd to have a job in 2022, like considering like the state of the world and all that kind of stuff. Like it is, there's like an absurdity to there's more of an absurdity to life like than ever before, I think. But what I'm getting at is that the energy of Shilpa Ray really captures that with songs like, you know, the one that I think really captures that sort of anti-capitalist is add value, add time, and then work, die. MTA asks add value, add time, and I just think so much about the last like 2 years of my life, like working at this, you know, mortgage company, and how I've spent a lot of my time working here and like being stressed out about something that just doesn't directly impact me, and you know, how capitalism just continues to like sweep away all of the like gems of society, and like these companies, these businesses that we love that shut down because they can't compete with the Target down the street. And, you know, Modest Mouse really captures that in some of their songs, like Custom Concern and Trucker's Atlas, Bankrupt on Selling, like all that kind of shit. So that stuff really rang true for me as far as like even coming from a privileged background. Like money is never enough payment for the amount of time you lose to a job.
And how about with your life experience? They broke my dreams and built a Whole Foods on top of it.
Oh, I think about that all the time. I mean, I think Whole Foods was always kind of a fucked up company. And I mean, I still buy stuff from Whole Foods. I know I'm a hypocrite, but like now more than ever, like it's definitely kind of clairvoyant for her to write about Whole Foods and at the same time that like Amazon was kind of like taking over. So yeah, no, I definitely, it hits home that I contributed to that business for like almost 4 or 5 years of my life. So it's something else.
Well, I think that's something she's trying to get at is we all, we all contribute to it. I think she's saying we're not to blame. The thing, the capitalism is to blame.
Yeah, exactly.
We live in it. Of course, we're going to contribute to it. Like, what other option do we have?
Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things.
So, at the risk of sounding like old man yelling at clouds,
mm-hmm. Is that a Simpsons reference?
Yeah, I think something about punk rock that I find very boring, very lazy is this, what would be the word, Jake? Like virtue signaling, this need to be woke, this need to like not be offensive, that is kind of antithetical to what the music is. Like punk rock is supposed to be offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's lazy writing to think that you can't write things that are offensive without looking like a bad person. Like if you're good at writing, you can write an offensive punk rock song without someone thinking you're a racist or saying something racist. Like
yeah,
that's lazy to think you have to. A lot of things in punk feel so safe, and I really appreciate Shilpa Ray for like a lot of these lyrics are like really going for it, really out there.
Mm-hmm.
She's not afraid to like say things that could offend.
Yeah, a
lot of the people she's playing to. Like a lot of this is putting left-leaning people on blast, and I appreciate that.
Well, I think that's kind of those are the people that need to be put on blast. Honestly, like I feel like conservatives and Trump supporters are kind of low-hanging fruit. Like we know they're clearly a problem, but then you get the people like us who talk about racism and stuff like that, but we're still kind of living in these like circles and areas of town that are gentrified, and we're benefiting from these businesses that probably evicted poorer families so they could build a Starbucks in the lobby and then a gym on the second floor and then a speakeasy on the third. So absolutely, like this is it's just mind-blowing how like fresh it is even 5 years later hearing this record, and exciting. Like I just felt excited listening to it, and I don't know if this is something I would normally enjoy. I'm kind of picky with this kind of music, but it sort of falls in this like this genre that I was just calling like every genre. Like I feel like it kind of covers all of these bases, and I think it would appeal to a lot more people. And again, it's like I think it has a strong following, but I do think that it's interesting that it doesn't have a bigger following. Like I feel like Shilpa Ray should be like a household name. I feel like she should be as big as Nick Cave. Like the writing and quality of writing on these records is really just like it never gets old. I mean, there's some tracks like Rockaway Blues that I think are charming, but definitely kind of like on the nose, like doing what they're trying to do. But then you get a lot. I mean, most of the record are all surprise hits. So I think it's really phenomenal what she's created here. And I was really excited that you suggested it because, that's kind of a great thing about being friends with someone who, likes checking out new music like I do. And, sometimes they'll suggest something to you would have never thought to look up, and it just completely changes your outlook on things. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. I thought this would be a home run for sure because, this just like hits so many bases. Like I feel like if you like music, you'll probably like this. It's just really well written music that pulls from surely some influences you like because there's so many different influences going on. I want to rewind a little bit.
Sure.
So when you were talking about low hanging fruit and when it comes to songwriting, because I think about that a lot when I like to write political songs, but then I think Like, who's going to hear this? Like,
Yeah.
who am I going to be playing to? I can write a song making fun of fucking, I don't know, Mitch McConnell, but I'm probably going to be... The people who are listening to it probably already agree with me. So
Right.
It's harder to do, and you risk like making people mad. But if you dig deeper and instead write a song that's like, hey, that house, you're my friend, but that house you bought, like, it was fucked up, you bought that house. Like, you're contributing to a fucked up problem right now in the city.
Mm-hmm.
That's harder to do, but it's probably more valuable to do stuff like that.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think
That's true.
I think that about that a lot. Like, who's your audience? And like,
Mm-hmm.
don't just pick the low-hanging fruit. Like, try to make your audience uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm glad you said that. I think that sometimes, you know, the left-leaning crowd they have this a very like Father John Misty kind of like way of music that they lean into, where it's like they're kind of laughing at themselves, but not too much. And I feel like Shilpa Ray is like definitely like laughing at the expense of other people at sometimes, but I think it's not malicious. Like, she's like, no, like, you're a part of the problem too. Don't think that because you paid $20 to come see me tonight that you're a good person. Like, you need to do some soul searching and figure out how you're contributing to the problem and then how you can contribute to the solution.
Yeah, and we all come to art for different things, but I think you and me are very alike in that I think we like that. Like, I love when I see like a movie or hear a band that like challenges me and is like, you're an idiot. Like, I love that feeling of like something, a piece of art that like is trying to tell me I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that energizes me.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. It's very important. I mean, that's why we like the movies so much. I feel like the movies that we tend to gravitate towards are typically ones that make us uncomfortable. I think it has a lot to do, too, with the fact that we live relatively comfortable lives. So we need stuff like that to shake us, or else I think it would be easy for us to just kind of get caught up in like our, you know, tendencies to be, you know, we might be lazy about something, or we might not keep up with the news enough and that kind of thing. And I think that this album definitely like kind of lights a fire under your ass.
Well, I think we're both people pleasers and like non-confrontational people. So in real life, if someone is kind of confrontational like that towards me, I kind of just try to end the situation as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So maybe I look for that confrontation in art instead, because I don't like it face to face. But
I
I
know
like
what you
art
mean.
that confronts me.
Yeah, confrontational art is good. It's fun. I mean, even when the birthday party was playing, like their style of performance was still like they were getting a message across. It was never just like we're the birthday party, we break stuff. Like, they were breaking stuff and like having crazy shows, and you know, their lyrics were insane and super noisy. But I think that they also had a point to what they were doing. They were deconstructing how like punk was at that time. And I think Shilpa Ray has taken a really creative path in creating a punk record that doesn't always sound like punk music, but I think it checks all the boxes for like what would make a perfect punk album.
For sure. And I think that's the spirit of punk right now. I think it's less hating on Donald Trump, and it's more being like, hey, yeah, you support Bernie Sanders, but you still got some work to do.
So that's interesting that you bring that up. Why is it that it was so fun to hate on George Bush, but I feel like it wasn't fun at all really to make fun of Donald Trump? Like, it just was like a bummer to even like have to think about him.
Well, I've actually thought about that a lot, and I think it's because, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, I think, but politics has intersected. You know, we've just become more educated as a society, and politics has like intersected into everything. And that wasn't the case in 2003, 2004 with George Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And also because of 9/11, he was so popular for a while. Like, the Iraq War had support among left-leaning people, at least in office.
Yeah.
It was a lot less conventional to like hate on it. Like, saying the Iraq War is wrong was kind of a bold stance. Whereas if that happened today, I don't think hardly anyone would support it. Society's just so different. Like, hating on George Bush felt more dangerous. It didn't feel dangerous to hate on Donald Trump. It just felt like you were part of the crowd.
Yeah, and also George Bush was funny. It was fun to make fun of because he was such a clown.
George Bush also had this patriotism thing going on where, like, if you...
Now I'm an American.
Yeah, if you challenged him in his administration, it was like you weren't being patriotic because of 9/11.
Yeah.
Trump tried to do that.
It's like that Family
But no
Guy
one really
joke.
believed it. No one really believed if you were like hating on Donald Trump, you were anti-American. That sounds ridiculous.
I don't really feel like Donald Trump did that kind of patriotism thing, even though people were like, he's a true patriot.
Yeah, he did the "Make America Great Again" thing, but yeah, patriotism wasn't.
But he didn't do that Bush shit.
9/11 was horrible, but
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No,
well, 9/11 was a tragedy, obviously, but like it helped George Bush because no matter what happened, he could just be like, America, like we want to beat the terrorist, and people bought into that.
Yeah,
with freedom fries and all that shit.
Freedom fries. Oh my God, so stupid. Give me French fries or give me death.
Exactly.
I mean, all of this shit just kind of boils down to the fact that a lot of people were doing activism by buying T-shirts during the pandemic. So it's like, I think there's a lot of stuff we have to unpack. And I think that's kind of what was so fun about this Shilpa Ray record is it was like helping me kind of examine where I'm at and like kind of where, like, how happy I am doing what I'm doing for 40 plus hours a week and like how I can reframe my life to like not make money for some fucking douchebag who can buy like I have to get on a meeting and kind of get like spurned for not putting my Zoom camera on to talk about some bullshit like thing that doesn't really matter. And how like I'm like, you can, you're wearing like a whiskey t-shirt and you just talk about the Masters series, but like you could give a fuck about anybody else and you're making like, six figures and you live in Hawaii. And it's just kind of one of those things. Like, sure, I'd like to live in Hawaii, but also it's like treat people decently. That's kind of the whole point. Just be decent to people. Everyone. Poor people. Everyone.
I would say for me, the way I look at it is, I mean, if anyone has the means to have a more fulfilling job, then they should absolutely take it. But I think the important thing for you, no one's asking you to like be homeless and quit your job. I think the important thing is to just realize that. Like realize your boss doesn't care about you. Realize the company you work for doesn't care about you. And just be aware of the situation. I don't think you should feel guilty or anyone should feel guilty about the job they work. If that's what they have to do to make ends meet, just realize the people you work for don't care about you.
Yeah, I feel that.
But I don't think feeling guilty solves anything. Like, no, I don't want anyone to like starve and quit their job and not be able to live. Just realize the situation.
Well, that's kind of the thing is that if you talk, there are, conversations that have been had with people who are less privileged and they're like, they're not mad at anyone else for being more privileged unless the people who are more privileged are just wallowing about it. Like they're like, oh, I'm white, I suck. It's like, no, like use your skin color for good. Like do the things that you can with your privilege to like make things better for us. And I think that's the difference with like a lot of these left-wing, I mean, myself included, like, you think that buying a t-shirt is going to solve the problem of racism. It's not. Like it helps a little bit. Maybe it helped somebody buy like a couple packs of water for some of the Black Lives Matter protests, but it's like there are big disparities happening in more important ways that need to be addressed. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
I agree with you, though. There's nothing worse than like performative guilt.
And I had a period of time where I felt that really hard, and I was like, I didn't know it was performative at the time, but in hindsight, it was like just look. I just wanted people to like be. I just wanted to be like, oh, don't look at me. Look at these other people. They're the bad ones. But like, you know, meanwhile I was like going home and, you know, reading comics and smoking weed and, you know, exercising and kind of like trying to get by, and I felt guilty about it. And it's like being guilty doesn't solve any fucking problems. So either, you know, suck it up, you know, be who you are, and just, you know, don't waste anyone else's time be feeling sorry for yourself.
Shilpa Ray, Door Girl. If you and your friends listen to this album, these are the conversations you were going to have. These are the kind of albums we love on Jubilee Street. Makes you think about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It definitely made me like second guess. And Ian, I got to say, I think we do another Shilpa Ray record on the podcast. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. We can do the last year's Savage. Or if she...
Let's just move back.
I'm assuming... Oh, what were you going to say?
I was just saying, let's move backwards and do one of the older ones. But maybe, it looks like maybe she's going to, if she hasn't already, I think she's dropping something in 2022. So maybe we'll keep an eye out for that.
Thinking. She's put out 2 songs recently, I think. So maybe she's about to drop a new album. But either way, we will definitely revisit her again because she's in the Nick Cave universe. She's in the Nick Cave Expanded universe. And
the Nickverse.
Hopefully gain some new fans. I think we say this a lot with stuff we cover, but really, like, if you like the birthday party, like, you're going to love this.
Yeah, if you like anything, you're going to like this. Like, if you like rap, if you like hip-hop, you'll probably like this. If you like Rancid and NoFX, you're probably going to like this. If you like Priest, Hole, The Breeders, Nirvana, you're going to like this. Like, if you like anything, that's why I call it, that's why I said it was in every genre. Like, it fulfills every need. If you don't like this, quite simply, you have no taste. You probably just listen to Ed Sheeran and Imagine Dragons, which is fine if you like that, but you have no taste.
Be weird if you were listening to this podcast.
Yeah, maybe they thought this was like maybe this was like they were looking for like a tabernacle choir review podcast, and they just stumbled onto the wrong street. So they're definitely jaywalkers.
Yeah, they're no, they don't deserve to be called jaywalkers.
Yeah.
Jaywalkers is something to wear with pride.
Yeah. They're like, what is this? I thought this was the Walk This Way podcast. Where's my Tyler Perry or Steve Perry? Wait, what's his name? Steve Tyler, right?
Oh, Steven Tyler. Yeah,
Steven Tyler. Yeah, because you know how I remembered that is I thought about his daughter, Liv Tyler, and I was like, that's how I remembered his last name because I like Liv Tyler so much more. Anywho, everybody.
Steve Perry. Oh, Steve Perry's Journey.
Yeah. He's the Journey guy. Anyway, everybody, we love you so much here at Jubilee Street. We love when you come and jaywalk with us. This has been Door Girl, as Ian said, Shilpa Ray. We love Shilpa. Check out her music. It's available everywhere. Buy the album on Bandcamp, even though I think Epic Games bought Bandcamp, so I don't know how great of a platform that's going to be for music anymore. But support her, buy her stuff. Tell your friends. We also have a Gmail account where we love to get messages from you guys. You can email us at jubileestreetpod@gmail.com. We've got an Instagram page at Jubilee Street Pod. You can follow us there. We post periodically when new episodes come out. Sometimes we post little polls, Nick Cave news, music news, and then Apple Music and Spotify and any other good podcasting streaming service. You can find our podcast. Leave us a rating, 5 stars. You can like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Bye-bye.
Ta-ta.